What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40k. So in this one, we're going back into the novel Godblight, where we see Kugoth, one of the greater demons of Nurgle, getting ever so close to completing his goal, creating the most powerful pox ever seen in the galaxy. However, he needs one final ingredient, the blood of Robut Guilliman. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this Nurgle lore. Lightning flashed in angry skies. It was only appropriate. The bells tolled around the plague mill. A host of demons worked within. A line of plague bearers passed sodden wood from hand to putrilent hand, fueling the fires beneath Nurgle's cauldron. The great unclean ones watched from a safe distance, while Nurglings campered madly, driven to the heights of excitement by what was going on, running to and fro and getting under everybody's feet. Kugoth tried to ignore them as best as he could, for he could afford no distraction. What bubbled in the cauldron could conceivably kill him. Unusual for a demon of all forms of disease, Kugoth wore a protective suit made of slimy human leather, stitched together in disturbing tessellation, so that the skins appeared to be flat people tumbling like leaves in autumn. For the moment, he had the hood back, flopping about on its back. Soon, he would have to have it on. With utmost care, Kugoth, the Plague Father, prepared to harvest his latest and finest concoction. He stirred carefully, his practiced eye examining each swirl in the liquid, each popping bubble. He tasted the mixture, looking upward in a moment as he judged the quality. Then he stirred it again 3 more times, each swish of the paddle excitingly performed. He knew it was done when a little plume of steam burst up, sending a froth of bubbles skating over the surface. The steam formed a death head that hung agape before parting and wafting away. "Silence, my pretties, silence," Kugoth whispered. For once, he was obeyed. Everyone went quiet, from the most garrulous mite to the most cantankerous plague-bearer. All eyes were on him. The Godblight is nearly ready. There is but one ingredient left to add. All knew their roles. Without prompting, several plague-bearers shuffled into a pier of black wood, jutting out from the broken floors of the plague mill. Kugoth backed up to them, and with a great deal of moaning, the plague-bearers dragged his hood up and pulled it up over his head. More cursing followed as they wrapped up his antlers and tied off all the many slippery sinews required to keep the demon safe. When it was in place, Kugoth's eyes were protected by bottle-bottom lenses. His nose was covered by a long beak stuffed with foul-smelling herbs. "Careful now," he muttered, "careful. A blight to kill gods will slay a mere demon such as myself with ease." The plague-bearers wisely shuffled out. The Nurglings, too feeble-minded to comprehend the peril they were in, just watched on. Kugoth peered about him, then reached into a rustling bank of lockers that served him as an ingredient rack. He flicked a door open, fettered about beneath the dank leaves inside, and with a pair of delicate tweezers, pulled out a small glass vial no bigger than a human thumb. "The Primarch's Vitae," he said, with not a little drama, for the moment demanded it. The blood was still disgustingly clean. He had been relieved to stash it in the box for a while, for touching the glass, even through his skin suit, made Kugoth feel ill, and not in a good way. "Oh," said the Nurglings. As the plague-bearers departed in an increasingly hurried shuffle, more and more Nurglings came waddling in. They all wanted to see. Such fools. Inside of his suit, Kugoth sweated. The next part was the most dangerous. The part that came after, even more dangerous yet. He had to be careful. With an even tinier pair of tweezers, he removed the stopper from the bottle, letting it dangle from the fine chain that kept it tethered to the vial. Some of the purity of the blood got into the air, and the Nurglings closest hugged each other and whimpered. "Now's the risky part," he said to himself. Ever so carefully, he took hold of the open vial with the largest pair of tweezers, using the smaller one to keep the lid free of the bottle. He gently tipped the vessel over the cauldron. The ruby drop ran along the side and poised at the lip of the neck. Kugath put aside all tremors and all other infirmaries while he performed this task. His hands were as steady as a surgeon's. With a very gentle twitch, he sent half the blood falling through the air into the cauldron, flicking the other half back into the vial, which he deftly shut. The blood vanished into the liquid, a single splash of crimson quickly swallowed by glowing green. To all those around, it seemed as if nothing had happened, but Kugath was too wise to believe that. He took a step back and secreted the precious blood back into the box. He would hide it under his skin again later. And now he waited. But nothing happened. He knew that over time it had to brew to perfect perfection. Kugath stayed stock still, staring into the mix. The Nurglings, not knowing any better, tiptoed forward. They crowded the walls and the gantries around the pot, making cliffs of eyes all around it. A final synthesis started as a simmering of the liquid began. This quickly became more violent, rapid, splashing all over the sides with bubbles that burst with gurgling pops. Now the whole cauldron was shaking, rattling about on the 3 pegs, sending cascades of sparks in all directions from the fire. Thick wells of fluid spilled down the sides, frothing and noxious, hissing into the logs and causing waves of stinking smoke and steam that made the Nurgling shriek. The fly symbols stamped onto the sides of the cauldron glowed bright with Nurgle's corpse light. The cauldron rattled harder. A twist of wind turned around it, wrapping itself into a tight vortex that lifted higher and higher. Where Kugath's suit was a little loose, it bellowed. Nurglings were being sucked and screaming from their perches into a growing tornado that reached higher and higher. Above the plague mill, a great gyre was turning, sucking at the clouds until a blackness appeared that was not of this void. Within it, a scaly eyelid opened, and a yellow eye peered curiously down. "His eye is upon us," Kugath shouted and pointed. "The Grandfather sees." With a great roaring, the liquid burst up in a straight spout and punched straight through the vortex. It seemed to climb so high, it tickled the eye of the Grandfather himself. There was a peal of thunder that sounded almost like laughter, and the vortex ceased. The liquid fell back to earth with a mighty splash, and the Nurglings rained all around. The lid of clouds closed again. The great eye in the sky was gone. Kugath leaned over the cauldron. Where a sea of green had bubbled, there was now a dirty test tube sealed with a bun of crumbling cork. Inside was a pint's worth of liquid that swirled about as if alive, turning from a glowing green to a purple as it performed its swirls. "Oh ho ho, success," Kugath said, though he did not completely believe it. He leaned on the lip of the cauldron, straining to grab the tube. He couldn't reach it, so he rocked the cauldron, and the tube rolled back and forth in the dregs left in the bottom. But still, Kugath could not reach it. "Drat," he said as he rocked even harder, and suddenly the cauldron tipped over, and Kugath pinched forward. His covered antlers clashed against the lip, and he fell down. The cauldron rolled, and Kugath snatched frantically for the tube as it dropped towards the ground, only just grabbing it from the air, as he let out a long, slow breath. "Ho ho ho, this must be handled carefully. Oh, so very carefully." Cradling the vial as if it were his most favorite of all Nurglings, he got up, whispering his love and pride to it. "I've done it! I've done it!" He reached up and tore free his hood. Then he frowned. But, oh my, what if it doesn't work? He looked at the Nurglings ranged around him, and they looked back. A few of the brighter ones widened their eyes and turned around and began to quietly waddle off. "Just wait there a moment, my pretties. I have something for you." He reached for his tweezers and plucked out the cork from the tube. The panic spread amongst the Nurglings as they were all now running about, tumbling over and trampling each other. A few popped like blisters. Those were the lucky ones. Kugath stretched his arm as far as it would go and shielded his face with his other hand as he allowed a single drop of the tube's contents to fall to the floor. The effect was instantaneous. A smoky circular wave front blasted out from the point where the liquid hit the ground. Every Nurgling it touched was reduced to a sticky black smear, their tiny souls screaming back into the warp, already corroding to nothing under the Blight's supernatural effect. From the goo left over by the demise, a secondary infection spread, skittering in all directions. Nurgling sneezed, mucus filled their eyes, blinding them, and they all started running into each other, spreading the disease even further. They coughed up their guts before melting like slugs to exposed salt, wailing as they died. For Kugath, who had been greatly irritated by Nurglings since he had ceased being one himself, it was the sweetest sound he could imagine. The devastation spread quickly, overtaking all but the fastest of Nurglings, until everything around him was covered in stinking ooze. He squinted, looking with his demon sight into the warp, and saw that not one of their souls had survived. "It works," he whispered. "It really works." He danced about, his covered feet slapping in the remains of his servants. For once, Kugath, Plague Father, allowed himself to smile. But it didn't last. He remembered himself soon enough, put back on his scowl, and corked the tube. Already, giant snails were slithering into the room to slurp up the remains of the Nurglings. "Mortarion," he said. "I must summon him. He must come here personally." And with a little pride and a little hurry, Kugath went on to collect his ally. And here we have it, guys. The end of this excerpt from Godblight. The end of the creation of the strongest pox of Nurgle. Now, I don't know if this is considered spoilers or not, but this pox, this disease, this concoction that Kugath created is so powerful, it indeed kills Guilliman. It is so strong, it is capable of killing a Primarch. Now, obviously we know Guilliman is still alive and well, but that is because the Emperor himself had to intervene and resurrect Guilliman. So we see here just how powerful the concoctions of the grandfather of poxes and pestilence can be. And obviously we have Isha in the background kind of looking and seeing as to what Nurgle's creating, and also able to send out remedies and the cure to all these diseases. I don't know if this would count, because technically this wasn't one that Nurgle did himself, it was Kugath. But at the same time, Nurgle knows everything that these demons are making, so I could still see if Isha was capable of, spreading whispers of the cure to the wider galaxy. But still, this is a powerful potion, and we see exactly what it can do to a Nurgling, and later on, what it does to Guilliman. So again, guys, if you guys want that instance recollected and made into a video, let me know. The battle between Mortarion and Guilliman, his death and resurrection. I think that would be still pretty cool and in theme with Nurgle November. But again, let me know in the comments. That's all I got for today, guys. So thank you for watching, listening, commenting, sharing, and of course subscribing. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Oh, what if you could put my freedom first?